Hi everyone, I'm Dana Gagnon, the CMO at Every, and I'm here with Michele Vincent from MadiCorp at Staffing World. We're gonna have a chat.
Hello, how are you?
Great, thank you so much for coming here today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's learn a little bit about you. Tell me, what's your background, what do you do at MadiCorp?
So I am Senior Director Marketing and Sales at MadiCorp, and I've been with the company for 17 years now.
Wow,
yes.
Congrats, that's awesome.
And so we do light industrial staffing all over the country, very different from a regular staffing agency. We actually source talent nationwide and then move workers and workforces around the country to wherever they're needed for like labor shortages and critical production needs and things like that.
Oh, that's super cool. I have so many follow-up questions just on that. I'm curious, so 17 years, have you always been on the sales and marketing side? Has your role evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I started out just pounding the phones, making phone calls all day long, which was not very glorious, but you learn a lot doing that.
For sure.
And then from there, I started taking on more marketing tasks. And now, I kind of oversee all the marketing and the sales for the entire company nationwide. And I actually started a podcast as well. So I'm the host of the U.S. Manufacturing Workforce podcast also.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you talked about you have a different model than other light industrial staffing companies. What led you to differentiate in that way?
So we have always done that. Our services have actually evolved over the years, though. So when we started way back in the early 90s, it was in response to labor disputes. Oh. So when a union workforce went out on strike, we would bring in a replacement workforce and run the operations. I think it was around 2000 or so, we incorporated a security division as well. So we would secure the facility and then operate the facility, and we would stay there until the company was able to kind of resolve their labor issues and the union went back to work. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided we were going to put that behind us and focus on solving, I guess at this point, I would say we are like the solution for labor shortages that are kind of impacting companies all across the country. So again, mostly in the light industrial space. Yeah. But there's so many companies that just can't hire the talent that they need from their local area.
Yeah.
And so we basically will find them wherever they're located across the country, handle all the logistics to bring them to where they're needed, put them in a hotel. We get rental vehicles. We drive them to and from the facility every day.
Wow.
And we can stay anywhere from 2 to 3 months to 2 years in some cases, depending upon the situation.
Wow.
And so I like to think of it as sort of like the gig economy of like staffing.
Yeah.
Right? In the sense of like you can kind of pick and choose your projects, you go out and you work. So we have a different model also in terms of hours. So when we go out to a site, our employees are working at least 60 hours a week.
Wow.
So you can pick and choose a few different projects a year and then go home and relax because you work very hard, you're working 60 if not more hours a week. And we pay for their lodging, we hand them per diem to cover their meals and incidentals. And so a lot of the employees that work with us consistently will just pick a few projects. They get to travel all over the country and then go home and relax with their family and then decide when they want to come out again.
Wow, that's super cool. So I'm guessing they're W-2s, not 1099s?
They are W-2s for us.
Mostly. So you're paying overtime and
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious, 60 hours a week, moving somewhere that you don't live, leaving your family, it would probably be kind of a hard sell maybe at first. Like how do you acquire talent? How do people find you and how do you kind of sell them on the vision of working?
So it is. I would say if you think about how difficult it is to recruit for light industrial positions in general, right? You have an industry issue where you have so many retirements and younger generations not getting into the trades, not getting into manufacturing. So we have that to overcome first. And then we have to find people who are willing to leave their family or leave their home for at least 90 days at a time. And so that can be challenging. So we use, all different methods for finding people in terms of job boards and social media and referral programs and things like that. But we've been doing it for 30 years, so we're pretty good at it. But it can be challenging. It depends on the category of personnel that we're looking for.
Any strategies that tend to work better for you than is it referrals, word of mouth over direct?
There's definitely a lot of word of mouth in the sense that people who do this type of work, they connect with each other to figure out who has the jobs going on. figure out what might be coming up in terms of potential projects. During the pandemic, when demand went through the roof for our services, I actually created a Facebook group specifically for traveling contract workers.
Oh, cool.
And so I have over 20,000 people in that group right now. And so that has been amazing because the level of, control's maybe not the best word, but when you're an admin of a Facebook group, you can kind of control the messaging, approve the post, and really get word out. And then I actually, on the side, because I'm a complete nerd, I built a website as well because I was thinking I need to be able to share content with people. I put a directory up there of companies, not just my company, but other companies that do similar work to help candidates be able to find legitimate companies in the industry and find their contact information, and then just, write some content to kind of educate them about the industry. Because if you've never done this type of work before, it seems very strange.
Yes.
Right? Like, you're just going to fly me to Wisconsin or Ohio, and you're going to pay for my hotel and give me money and take me to and from work every day?
Yeah, be like, who are you? This is too good to be true.
So new people, if they see a job ad on the job board and they call us, if they've never heard of it before, you have to kind of overcome that skepticism. Is this real?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people don't know about our industry, but we've been doing this for over 30 years. So there is, in terms of name recognition with it, people who know us, we're one of those trusted companies that have been doing this for a while.
That's super cool. This Facebook group, 20,000 members, that's incredible. And I assume that's just like an open, it's not just people who work for MadiCorp.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that because if I made it just about us, less people would be interested. And the goal really was to get people to work, whether or not that's with my company or another company. And everybody really seemed to, appreciate that and just help people find jobs. So.
No, that's awesome. I was just talking to another guest earlier about how there's not that many communities for temporary workers, whether healthcare or whatever. And a lot of times they'll go to like Reddit and start a thread, but it becomes just kind of a complaint fest. So the fact that you're, fostering a community where people can share jobs and,
I think I actually have 9,000 people that I need to approve to get in there because it's very hard. I take my time because I don't want spam, I don't want bots, and so I do go through and I look at everybody before I approve them and make sure they're legit.
That's
and
awesome.
Then I let it get a little out of hand, and I haven't approved a lot of people, so now I have to go back through and let them all in.
That's I love it though. That's a commitment.
Well, you have to be creative, especially like in this talent market. It's not as crazy as it was during the pandemic, but I was like, what else can we do here to find people?
Yeah.
Because it was difficult. And so social media is where everybody is. And I think I was talking with the people at LinkedIn just a little while ago at one of the booths here, and LinkedIn, there are skilled trades and there are, people in manufacturing and warehousing on LinkedIn, but it's more of a professional site.
Yeah.
When you're in a Facebook group, you don't have to worry about that so much. So people are more themselves, less concerned about what they're going to say, and it's more real conversations.
Yeah. I love that you brought up creative strategies and you're on the marketing side. You're a creative marketer, you're building this content hub, this community. I think marketing is often underplayed at staffing organizations. What advice would you give a staffing company that's maybe not investing in marketing? Like, where do they start? How do they?
You're right. I think that is a challenge for a lot of organizations. I guess, where do they start or what do they do? I think you want somebody probably who's more of a generalist, but someone who's just genuinely interested in technology. I think selfishly, right, I was just trying to make things easier for us.
Yeah.
And trying to problem solve. You need somebody, I think, who's like, I like to look at other industries and see what they're doing, especially the tech space, because the people in tech, they know what they're doing. They do it well. And so I look at what other companies are doing and I say, how can I apply that to staffing?
So smart.
This is a great idea. So I think you just need somebody who's genuinely interested, genuinely trying to problem solve, but then understands the technology aspect behind that, and obviously who can execute on that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a nerd in the sense that I've always self-educated. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've taught myself SEO, website design, like all the things. So I'm just constantly curious.
Yeah, you and I can be friends. So sounds very
I
similar
think
how
we
I
will be
am.
after this.
That's awesome. We talked a little bit about strategies to attract candidates to jobs. Once they're in a new role, they've moved across the country. How do you make sure that they're happy, content? How do you retain them in that role and get them coming back for other roles?
So we have supervision. So we are sort of, overseeing our employees when they're on the plant floor, but then at the hotel, making sure that their needs are taken care of, doing fun things with them. We may take trips to go bowling. You just want to make sure, especially for anybody new who's not done traveling work before, it's a different experience. So you just want to build rapport with them. Obviously, comes back to management. You want to have good supervisors in place, people who, are good with people. And, you just got to kind of try to keep people happy. And then assuming that they don't mind being out on the road for long periods of time and, they like to do that work. The people who do like that kind of lifestyle do like to keep coming out with us and do that, but it's not for everybody. So sometimes we catch people in between jobs who maybe just try it out for a short period of time, and then they go on and do other things. But we do have a core group of employees that we use, regularly.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it's for certain people, if there is that constant stream of new jobs coming in, it's probably just a way for them to kind of patch together full-time work, essentially, for temp jobs. One of the things we hear when we survey workers who work in a temp capacity is that the availability of jobs, but also how quickly they can get deployed to a job is really critical for them. What are some things that you do to get new workers onboarded quickly, get them out to site?
So it can be a challenge. So sometimes what holds us up, we can move very quickly, and we can move, I would say a comfortable number for us is like 200 people in a weekend. We can move them quickly in that sense. The holdup typically comes with the client. So if we are talking with candidates about the job and then we can't send them out right away, it's hard. You have to stay in communication, but there's not much that you can do there all the time. So you can lose people. So we're constantly recruiting and hoping, obviously, that people don't, leave in that interim period. But our recruiters do a good job in terms of staying in communication with them and letting them know if that start date has changed. So we do our best.
No, that's great. We've talked a lot about the candidate experience. I'm curious more on the client side. You're over sales and marketing. What are some strategies that you're using to get new clients, keep the clients you have?
So it's hard to keep the clients that we have in the sense that it's usually a very critical business need for which they're coming to us.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But once they've used us, they know of us and they trust us. If and when another need pops up, they know who to call and they will come back. But it's not an everyday solution for open positions. Right? It's very specific. And I think for me, in terms of going out and finding new clients, it is a little bit, sales is always challenging, but the situations for which we're helping are things that companies aren't projecting necessarily.
Interesting.
So it's more kind of how do we get out there and stay top of mind for when they need us? That said, if there's a situation where a hurricane comes through and impacts your plant and shuts down your production, I'm going to say I need to call this company and let them know I exist and see if they need my help. So there's things like that that are, that happen in life that I will, do that outreach and just kind of see if we can provide assistance, because a lot of people come to us now because they've worked at a union plant before and they knew what we used to do.
Oh, interesting.
They might not know that we don't do it anymore, but they'll search for that service because they know about the quick response time and how it works, and they think, okay, I have this hypercritical business need. They can probably help, and so they come to us for that reason. So it is a bit challenging. There's a lot that I do to try to figure out who to target. I won't get into the secret sauce too much.
You don't want to give up all your secrets.
I look at industry trends and what's going on and what markets, like just in a general sense, aerospace and defense, there's a lot of federal funds being pushed into the defense industry, right, in terms of ammunitions and things like that. So that's an industry that I've been reaching out to recently because I know that they're going to need talent. Unfortunately, their production facilities are very outdated and they have to increase production capacity at the moment. But their systems aren't really able to accommodate that. So they have to build out their plants in a lot of cases.
Interesting.
And so that's another area where we'll come in and help a company. And this happened during the pandemic as well. A plant will expand. They need to increase production, but hiring goes too slow.
Yeah.
And so they'll bring us in because we can drop in, let's say, 150 people quickly.
Wow.
That alleviates the hiring pressure, and then we can work ourselves out of a job so that they're not feeling the pressure to hire and get people in there.
Right.
They have that operational stability, and then they can take their time and make sure they make the right hires and not just hire a body to get them in there.
Right.
So,
do they ever hire your team permanently, or do you work with them on that? Or
no.
Yeah.
And so our employees are not looking for that. It's always like temporary contract work, but we do allow for that. So for longer term projects where we're there years, it doesn't have to be years, but it happens more in those instances where the employee likes the location, they end up liking the company, and so we'll allow for that to happen. I just set the expectations appropriately when I'm speaking with companies to say that's not usually what my employees are looking for. Mm-hmm. If the stars align and and everybody's into it, like we'll make that happen for you. But I don't want you to expect that you're going to be able to hire the entire team because that's not likely what they're looking for.
Yeah, unrealistic. I'm curious, what are some of the unique challenges for light industrial staffing specifically? Because it seems like one of the more complex subverticals within staffing. Can you talk about some of the unique challenges?
In terms of like recruiting or
recruiting, deploying workers.
So I think, I touched upon this before. I just think in general, you just have this instance where we've been pushing our children to go to college and teaching them that the trades in manufacturing is less than. They think of it as dirty and not a good career choice. Mm-hmm. And so we just have this problem where we need to teach younger generations at a younger level, even at like the high school level, just kind of begin to let them know that these are solid career choices. Absolutely, and that's where the demand is. Yeah. Right? So you don't have to go take out loans and spend 4 years in college to get a good job. And honestly, if you don't have direction in a lot of cases, that's not a real good path anyways.
Absolutely.
But you can get into the trades, and if you have to take out loans, they're small. And then you can get a job right away. Yeah. So
I love that.
It's hard because there's a lot of retirees. The pandemic actually pushed people into retirement, so you had more people retiring sooner. So you have like maintenance techs and machinists, especially like manual machinists and things like that, where it's just hard to find them. Yeah. Right? So, and I find too what's interesting, having worked in the industry for as long as I have, and just in terms of the scope that we do work in all across the country, it's interesting for me to see things do come in waves. Yeah. There was a period during the pandemic where we were getting calls from companies all across the country. Everybody needed machinists. And then recently it's been everybody's looking for maintenance techs.
Interesting.
There was a period during initially when things started getting very busy for us during the pandemic, everybody that called needed 50 production workers. 50 was the number every time.
You're like, what?
I didn't understand what was happening, but it is interesting to see those ups and downs in terms of particular categories.
Yeah,
it makes sense sometimes when you're getting requests from an industry, right? Because you have all of a sudden a spike in demand, and so you're seeing that. But I don't know. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Oh, it is fascinating. It's super interesting vertical within staffing for sure. Zooming out a little bit, we're at Staffing World. Everyone's here talking about trends in staffing, future of staffing. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think is like the most exciting innovation that's going to be a game changer for staffing?
Woo. I don't know. I think from my perspective, in terms of what I'm seeing, I know like AI is the buzzword, but it means so many different things. Yes. But I think I don't want to, I guess I'm going to go with that, but I don't think, I heard someone say it before, it's not about replacing people, right? It's about using it and how can you make your life a little bit easier. And I use ChatGPT is something that I use a lot. For sure. And again, it's not to replace anybody or anything. You're not going to get a good output if you don't have a good input. Yes. So you do need to know what you're talking about, and then you do need to know, is what this just told me even accurate? So that obviously is something that I think is very interesting. I've seen different demos here that are fascinating in terms of video interviews with AI,
Yes.
asking questions. Specifically, the example that I saw was for machine operators and asking questions about their safety protocols or what they've done in a situation where there was an issue with the machine and how did they handle that. And I thought that was very fascinating because especially when you're doing high volume recruiting, which is what we're typically doing, being able to use that, and we don't, and if I'm being totally transparent, we're not using that yet, but I could see where the value would be if we have to send out 200 people very quickly, to have that working as a first pass screen, then have the recruiters go through and see, okay, like these are the people we want to talk with first, these we can talk with after. It'll just accelerate, I think, what people are doing if that's a need for them. Obviously, not everybody's doing high volume recruiting. And then one of the other interesting things that I saw here, I don't know if you've seen the booth, it's over there, lie detector AI.
AI?
Yeah, so it's like, they will take a video and then put it through their system, and then it's going to tell you like a percentage of whether or not somebody is lying.
Wild.
So I heard of it through our rep at the Indeed booth. He mentioned it, so I said, let's go check it out. That's interesting. They're doing a lot right now in the legal space, I guess. And so I think this is their first time kind of dabbling in staffing in terms of like a booth here.
Yeah.
But the reason it even came up when I was talking to the Indeed rep, because he mentioned AI just writing a resume for someone. And how do you know if it's even accurate, right? Legit. So it's all very fascinating. And I don't know.
It's kind of like the AI is layering on. It's because of AI exists that can help people lie, then you need this other AI tool to figure out if they're lying.
Right.
Like, what then?
Because that's what I was saying. I'm like, I know that schools will use, I don't know what it is, schools will use systems to figure out if a student has used ChatGPT to, write a paper. So in my head, I'm thinking, can you do that for resumes too? That would be helpful. And that's how it came up about the video interviews and detecting whether or not somebody is lying.
That's crazy.
Yeah, wild.
I don't know if I like that. I don't know.
But it's funny because he's talking about, and I'm obviously not the expert on that, but he was saying the way that people answer, if it's in real time or what they did in the past, I forget exactly, but there's a way, like if they're talking one way and then they talk another way, then that's kind of what they do. But then also your mannerisms. So if you ask me a question and I say, no, I didn't do that, and I'm shaking my head yes, that's also like an indication that something's off. And it's not 100% accurate, right? You need, and what do you do with that information? Because I said you can't possibly use that in a legal or insurance sense, but as he was talking about from an insurance perspective, if you're able to identify that maybe someone's not telling the truth, you don't use that per se, but then you can say, I need to dig into this topic a little bit more because something seems off. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so there's a way to use it and still maintain trust with that you're trusting candidates. You're not like overreaching. It's
Yeah. So I don't know how that plays out in staffing, but certainly if you can determine whether or not a resume is the same as somebody else's, there's value in that. And you obviously have to talk to the candidate and ask them questions and see if they can answer those questions. But
those are super, I mean, AI is a common answer, definitely, but the application of it, I think, will be, people are still kind of waiting to see how it shakes out. So.
Yeah, and it's all new, right? So everybody's got to experiment and see what works and what applies and what doesn't, but technology is fun.
It is. Yeah, and you called yourself a nerd like 3 times, so I'm sure you're like, I'm learning out. I always like to end on the same question I've asked everyone. If you could sum up the future of staffing in one word, what would it be?
Fascinating. I find, for me, especially in the light industrial space, I've learned so much. Things that I never would have even thought about before, like how things are made, how it works, how product gets from one place to another, supply chain things. Obviously, during the pandemic, supply chain came up and people were talking about it that never thought about it before. But being able to, anything from food to fighter jets to automotive parts, just in terms of like things that we have done in the past, I mean, we've worked at aluminum smelting plants, at steel mills, at automotive manufacturers, at food plants. I mean, we've done so many cool things. Cleaning products. I mean, it's fascinating to me, and what I like about it is I never know what tomorrow's going to bring and who's going to call and what I'm going to be helping somebody with.
That's super cool.
I will leave it there.
I love that, Michele. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching. More videos are coming soon, so stay tuned.